Hi, good evening, and welcome to the public scoping meeting for the Empire State Development Brooklyn Developmental Center mixed-use project. And we hope you're in the right place. We will be getting started momentarily, and we thank you for joining. Welcome. My name is Marlene Bauer of InGroup, a project team communications consultant on behalf of Empire State Development. Welcome to the public scoping meeting for the Brooklyn Developmental Center mixed-use project. As we open tonight's meeting, we would like to recognize and welcome various elected officials joining us remotely. Senator Roxanne Prasad, Assemblymember Charles Barron, joining with New York City Council Member Barron, Assemblymember Latrice Walker, Brooklyn Borough President Eric Adams. Tonight, I'm also joined on screen by Allison Beha, Empire State Development Vice President of Real Estate, Development and Planning, Kate Habeck, STV Consultant Project Manager, an American Sign Language interpreter, and off-screen by representatives from the project team and SAIPR who will address technical aspects of this meeting. I have been asked by the New York State Urban Development Corporation, doing business as Empire State Development, also referred to as ESD, to conduct today's public scoping meeting. Next slide. Today's public scoping meeting for the Brooklyn Developmental Center mixed-use project is being held pursuant to the New York State Environmental Quality Review Act, or SEQRA, S-E-Q-R-A. The purpose of this meeting is to give the public an opportunity to make comments about Empire State Development's draft scope of work for the proposed project's draft environmental impact statement, or DEIS. My purpose is to run the meeting in a fair and impartial manner and try to make sure everyone who wishes to make comment on the proposed draft scope of work has an adequate opportunity to do so during this meeting as time will permit, or via written submission, which will be explained. This is not a question and answer session. It is instead an opportunity for you to present your views so that ESD can consider them in preparing the Environmental Impact Statement, or EIS. Comments presented at this meeting will be taken into consideration by ESD as part of the environmental review of the proposed project. Aside from oral comments made during tonight's meeting, comments may also be submitted in writing via email to bdcproject@esd.ny.gov. bdcproject@esd.ny.gov, or may be sent via U.S. Postal Service to the address shown on screen. Comments must be received before the end of the public comment period, which is 5 p.m. Eastern Standard Time on Friday, November 13th, 2020. For more about the project, including the draft scope of work, you can visit the website at esd.ny.gov/BDC. You'll see this information again periodically throughout the meeting if you need to take note of these addresses or instructions again. At this time, I'd like to share a few housekeeping notes before we begin. Please note that a stenographic transcript of this meeting is being made. In addition to this online Zoom meeting, these proceedings are being live streamed over YouTube, broadcast live via Brooklyn Free Speech TV, and recorded for future viewing on the ESD website. By participating in this meeting, you are granting permission to have your name, voice, and likeness recorded, broadcast, live streamed, and/or posted to the ESD project website. The full recording of this meeting, along with a copy of the full transcript, will be made available on ESD's website within 3 to 5 days of this meeting. We ask that if you're participating via Zoom and will be speaking, that you turn off mute the YouTube live stream, the Brooklyn Free Speech TV broadcast, and eliminate any background noise. Tonight's scoping meeting is for the Brooklyn Developmental Center mixed-use project. Comments should be focused on the draft scope of work for the proposed project only. Pre-registered speakers will have 3 minutes each to provide their comments. We will ask that speakers exercise civil conduct during public comments. Speakers who use inappropriate language or act inappropriately will be cautioned or may be muted before being allowed to continue. Continued uncivil behavior will result in removal from the meeting. As you can see, American Sign Language interpretation is being provided on screen. And please email support@saipr.com with any technical issues you may be experiencing. Aside from oral public comments made during tonight's meeting, comments may also be submitted in writing to the email or physical address on screen. Comments must be received before the end of the public comment period, which is 5 p.m. Eastern Standard Time on November 13th, 2020. For information about the project, including the draft scope of work, please visit the website at esd.ny.gov/BDC. You'll see this information again periodically throughout the meeting if you need any of these addresses or instructions again. We will now share some pre-recorded instructions on how to participate in tonight's meeting via Zoom.
When you entered the webinar, you were likely greeted with a view similar to this, with the presenters on one side of the screen, similar to a film strip, and the presentation on the other. If you wish to see the speakers or the ASL interpreters larger, you may adjust the bar between the two sides of the screen, which will allow you to increase or decrease the size of each portion of the screen. Also, you will notice when you activate the screen, the various buttons that allow you to interact with this webinar will appear along the bottom. If you wish to make a public comment after the presentation, use the raise hand feature and one of our team will reach out to you and register you to speak. You will be added to a list and your name will be called in the order it was received. Watch the list on screen carefully so you know when you are coming up to speak. When it's your turn to speak, you will be promoted to the screen. Please be sure that your microphone is turned on so that you can be heard. You may also activate your camera if you wish to be seen. The controls are similar on the computer and mobile applications, but each device is a little different. You may have to familiarize yourself with them. To activate the controls on a mobile device, you usually just need to tap the screen and they will appear.
I would like now to introduce Allison Beha, Empire State Development Vice President of Real Estate Development and Planning, to say a few words of welcome.
Good evening. Thank you, Marlene. My name is Allison Bea, and I'm a Vice President of Real Estate Development and Planning at Empire State Development, or ESD. I'm the project manager for the Brooklyn Developmental Center mixed-use project. We appreciate all of the stakeholders who are participating in this virtual meeting tonight. We would much rather be with you in person, but due to the COVID-19 pandemic and restrictions on public gatherings, we are conducting this as a virtual meeting. What you are about to hear is a pre-recorded presentation with my voice describing the project, which was recorded ahead of time to ensure that the technology would work seamlessly this evening. Following my recording, I'll turn it over to Cade Hobbick of STV to provide more information about the scope of work. I will be here the entire evening listening to your comments. Thank you again for joining us. The proposed project is part of Governor Cuomo's Vital Brooklyn initiative, a comprehensive strategy to address chronic social, economic, and health disparities in central Brooklyn. The project envisions the redevelopment of approximately 27 acres to provide affordable housing in East New York, which is located within one of the most socially and economically disadvantaged areas of New York State, with measurably higher rates of obesity, diabetes, and high blood pressure, limited access to healthy foods and opportunities for physical activity, high rates of crime, wide economic disparities from unemployment and poverty levels, and inadequate access to high-quality healthcare and mental health services. The proposed project seeks to ameliorate these conditions by creating a community that is health-based, centered around open space, provides walkable access to retail destinations and the new Shirley Chisholm State Park, and provides space for jobs and activities that will support community health, such as meal delivery services and urban farming. The former Brooklyn Developmental Center, or BDC, is located in the Spring Creek area of East New York, Brooklyn. It's operated by the New York State Office of People with Developmental Disabilities, or OPWDD, and is owned by the Dormitory Authority of New York, or DASNY. The 7 buildings on the campus were used to provide services and residences to New Yorkers living with developmental and intellectual disabilities. OPWDD is now consolidating and relocating the services they provided at the site. In collaboration with New York State Homes and Community Renewal, or HCR, ESD published a request for proposals seeking high-quality, mixed-use, wellness-oriented redevelopment proposals with affordable and supportive housing components for the site. A team comprising Apex Building Company, L&M Development Partners, Riseboro Community Partnership, and Services for the Underserved, or SUS, was selected to acquire and redevelop the site with a proposal based on a concept called Blue Zones, an urban planning approach modeled after communities across the world that have the longest lifespans. The proposed project includes the demolition of the existing buildings on the site and the construction of approximately 2,623 new units of affordable housing, including more than 200 units set aside for senior citizens and approximately 500 units designated as supported housing. It also includes approximately 132,739 square feet of commercial space. Additionally, it includes approximately 51,958 square feet of community facility space, including a senior center, a health clinic operated by One Brooklyn, and a community center. It also includes approximately 27,700 square feet of light manufacturing space, including indoor agriculture and a kitchen where Meals on Wheels meals will be produced. The project will also provide approximately 5 acres of public open space and a new urban farm. Construction of the proposed project is expected to occur in multiple phases, with the first phase of construction beginning in 2022 and the final phase completing in 2030, with full occupancy expected in 2031. As lead agency for the environmental review of the proposed project, under the New York State Environmental Quality Review Act, or SEQRA, ESD has determined that a draft environmental impact statement, or DEIS, will be prepared. ESD first issued a notice of lead agency, positive declaration, public scoping, and intent to prepare a DEIS on September 14th, 2020, which was distributed by email and posted on ESD's website, along with the draft scope of work. In addition to the email distribution and posting on the ESD website, the notice appeared in the Environmental Notice Bulletin and the print edition of New York Daily News. The purpose of today's meeting is to obtain comments on the draft scope of work for the DEIS. The draft scope of work is available on the ESD website. That's www.esd.ny.gov, or by sending an email to bdcproject@esd.ny.gov, or by calling 212-803-3923. While the meeting record normally remains open for 10 days following a scoping meeting, because of the unusual circumstances presented by the COVID-19 pandemic, ESD is extending the comment period to 30 days after this meeting, until November 13th, 2020. Please note that today's scoping session is to hear your comments on the draft scope. This is not a question and answer session, and it is not a meeting about the details of the proposed project and the design. To describe more about the SECRA process, I'll turn it over to Cade Hobbick from STV, an environmental consultant who is assisting ESD in preparing the DEIS.
Great, thank you, Allison, and welcome everyone, and thank you all for joining us this evening. As Allison just mentioned, my name is Cade Hobbick, and I'm with STV, and we are the lead consultant firm supporting ESD in their environmental review of the Brooklyn Developmental Center mixed-use project. I too have a pre-recorded presentation this evening, and in that presentation, I'll provide an overview of the environmental review process, as well as a summary of the draft scope of work. So thank you again, everyone, for joining us, and we look forward to your comments. As Allison mentioned a moment ago, the purpose of this public scoping meeting is to obtain comments on the draft scope of work for the Draft Environmental Impact Statement, or DEIS. Scoping is the beginning of the public process designed to determine the scope of issues to be studied and addressed in the Environmental Impact Statement, or EIS. Comments from involved or interested agencies and members of the public help ensure that important potential impacts are thoroughly examined. The objective is to identify the relevant and key issues of concern, which will then define the scope of the environmental analyses performed for the EIS. The comments received here today, as well as those that are submitted throughout the comment period, will be considered and responded to in a final scoping document that will guide the DEIS, which will assess the potential for environmental impacts from the proposed project. The final scoping document will be distributed to the involved and interested agencies, as well as anyone requesting a copy, and will be made available on ESD's website. When ESD determines that the DEIS conforms with the final scope, the DEIS will be released for public review. Following issuance of the DEIS, ESD will hold a public hearing to solicit comments on the DEIS and proposed project. Based on comments received at that hearing and other comments received in writing, a final EIS will be prepared, which responds to relevant comments and makes modifications to the EIS as appropriate. Agency actions on the proposed project in terms of approval or disapproval cannot be undertaken until that final EIS has been completed and is available to inform the decision-making process. In the next few minutes, I will be providing an overview of the proposed actions and project area, adding to what Allison just described, and I will be explaining the approach to conducting environmental analyses for the EIS, as I describe screening analyses and detailed analyses. The proposed actions are the acquisition of the remaining portion of the Brooklyn Developmental Center campus, Block 4586, Lot 300, and disposition of a part of Lot 300 to a conditionally designated developer for mixed-use development, which Allison described a few minutes ago. That proposed mixed-use development is what I will refer to as the proposed project. As Allison previously described, the property to be acquired as part of the proposed actions we are presenting now is part of the Brooklyn Developmental Center, or BDC campus, which is slated for closure. When the Brooklyn Developmental Center was previously in full operation, its campus included the entire block 4586, which is bounded by Vandalia Avenue to the north, Seaview Avenue to the south, Fountain Avenue to the east, and Erskine Avenue to the west. Two portions of this block are already under development as part of a prior disposition to a different developer for a project known as the Fountain Avenue Land Use Improvement and Residential Project. Those two portions comprise the northern end of the block along Vandalia Avenue and the southwest corner of the block on Seaview Avenue and Erskine Avenue. The remaining portion of the block is Lot 300, which is the subject of the proposed acquisition and redevelopment. As proposed, most of Lot 300, all except the southeast corner, for which there are no current plans, would be developed as the proposed BDC mixed-use project. This approximately 27.1 acre portion of Lot 300 is what we refer to as the project site. The proposed project is a Type 1 action per the New York State Environmental Quality Review Act, or SEQRA, S-E-Q-R-A. And so an environmental impact statement, or EIS, will be prepared to assess potential environmental impacts of the proposed actions, present mitigation measures, and explore alternatives that may avoid or reduce potential impacts. Because the project is located in New York City, ESD, as the lead agency for the preparation of the EIS, will be following the guidance, methodologies, and thresholds presented in the New York City Environmental Quality Review, or SEQR, C-E-Q-R, Technical Manual. Based on the guidance of the SEQR Technical Manual, the EIS will be structured according to a series of technical areas for which ESD will prepare analyses. Some analyses will be sufficiently complete at a screening level, which determines that no significant adverse impacts would result and that no further analysis is warranted. For other technical areas, we anticipate the need to conduct detailed analyses. As outlined in the draft scope of work, the following analyses would be complete at the screening level: socioeconomic conditions, community facilities and services, specifically healthcare, police, and fire services, historic and cultural resources, water and sewer infrastructure, specifically water supply, solid waste and sanitation services, energy, public health, and finally, neighborhood character. As described in the draft scope of work, the EIS will include a detailed project description, as well as a description of proposed alternatives to the proposed actions, which for this EIS is the no action alternative, or essentially what the project site would be in the future were the proposed actions not to occur. This no action alternative serves as a baseline point of comparison for analyses of the proposed actions. Now I will review the detailed environmental analyses as described in the draft scope of work. We will provide analyses of land use, zoning, and public policy, which will provide an overview of the context in which the proposed actions would occur, though the proposed actions are not expected to affect land use, zoning, or public policy off-site. For community facilities and services, specifically, given the size of population that would be introduced, detailed analyses of schools, childcare, and libraries will be conducted. For the analysis of open space, we will consider potential indirect effects to neighborhood open space. For example, potential increases in use of surrounding open space. The potential for impacts related to shadows also will be analyzed. Given the height of buildings and proximity of open space to the project site, potential effects related to incremental shadows will be analyzed. For the analysis of urban design and visual resources, effects of the proposed project on the urban design and visual resources of the study area will be analyzed. For the analysis of natural resources, ESD will consult with the New York State Department of Environmental Conservation about potential short-eared owl habitat, and ESD will prepare a Jamaica Bay watershed protection form. For the analysis of hazardous materials, environmental studies such as environmental site assessments will be reviewed and evaluated to determine potential for exposure to hazardous materials. We will prepare analyses of water and sewer infrastructure, specifically a sewers and stormwater assessment. The project site is located in an area with a separate sewer system and is served by the 26th Ward wastewater treatment plant. For transportation, analyses will include traffic, bus, subway, pedestrian, and parking analyses to determine potential impacts. Vehicular and pedestrian safety evaluations also will be prepared. For the analyses of air quality and greenhouse gas emissions, these analyses will include evaluation of stationary source impacts and mobile source impacts. For the analysis of noise and vibration, we will analyze temporary and long-term increases in noise and vibration levels in the immediate vicinity of the project site, as well as during construction. Construction impacts also will be analyzed. We will describe construction activities such as phasing, staging plans, and equipment to be utilized, and provide a consolidated review of potential effects attributable to project construction, specifically air quality, noise, and vibration. And finally, the DEIS will include chapters devoted to mitigation for all predicted impacts, analysis of alternatives. As I mentioned, the alternative to the proposed actions is the no action alternative. We will also analyze cumulative effects, which puts the project in the context of other actions, describing the relationship of the proposed actions to other recent or reasonably foreseeable development in the surrounding area. And then summary chapters will be prepared as part of the EIS, including an executive summary and chapters summarizing unavoidable adverse impacts, growth-inducing aspects of the proposed project, and irreversible and irretrievable commitments of resources. Thank you, everyone, for joining us this evening.
Thank you, Kate and Allison. Before we get started with the public comment portion of the meeting, let's review some technical aspects again so that you can get ready to make public comment. If you have pre-registered, we already have your name, and your name will appear on screen in the order it was received. If your name appears on screen, please use chat feature and type in your first and last name and any affiliation, and you'll be placed into the speaker's queue. I will then announce the current speaker and up to the next 4 subsequent speakers. When you're placed in the speaker's queue, to prevent background or feedback noises, please be sure that any other broadcasts, live streams, or devices are muted and that noise is kept to a minimum. Additionally, please also unmute your audio, enable your camera if you want people to see you, although it's not required, state your name and spell it out for the record, and please announce any affiliation you may have. We are accepting speaker registrations up to 7:45 p.m. Next slide. If you have not yet signed up to speak, I would like to ask you from your computer, just simply identify yourself using the chat or raise hand feature, the black toolbar at the bottom of your screen. If you click on chat, type in request to speak with your first and last name and any affiliation into the chat box, and our staff will confirm that you're being placed onto the speakers list in the order you signed up. Likewise, if you utilize the raise hand feature, our staff will initiate a chat conversation with you to secure your name and affiliation. They'll also confirm that you're being placed on the speakers list in the order you signed up. Speakers are welcome to register to make public comment until 7:45 p.m. Speakers will be prioritized based on pre-registration prior to the meeting, followed by signups that occurred during the meeting. Again, if you're using the dial-in function from your phone, if you enter *9, that'll alert a member of our team that you wish to make a comment, and you'll be added to the speakers list. Since there's no way to modify your Zoom profile, if you're accessing by phone, you'll automatically be added to the speakers list, and I'll identify you by your area code and last 4 digits of your telephone number that you're calling from. We're now going to get a countdown clock ready on the screen, and it'll be set to 3 minutes. There'll be some short warnings before the 3 minutes are up. Additionally, the clock will indicate when there are 30 seconds remaining. Elected officials, community board and district managers or chairs or representatives of government agencies will be provided the courtesy of speaking first if they alert us and provide their office in the chat feature. Periodically, your screen will show a list of the next 5 speakers, so you can prepare for your time to speak. When your name or phone number is called, you'll be asked to unmute yourself, and we'll make sure that you're ready to speak before we start the time clock. Additionally, the countdown clock will indicate when there are 30 seconds remaining, and for those on the phone, you'll be verbally prompted. Following your public comment, your audio will be muted again, and you'll be placed back into the Zoom meeting. If time permits, you may re-register to speak again this evening, and you'll be placed back in line. Or you may send any additional comments to ESD's mailing or email address. This is a scoping meeting for the Brooklyn Developmental Center mixed-use project. Comments should be focused on the draft scope of work for the proposed project only. Just a reminder that this meeting is being recorded, and we ask that speakers exercise civil conduct when making public comment. Speakers who use inappropriate language will be cautioned or possibly muted before being allowed to continue. This is not a question and answer session. This is a time for public comment. And I'll now be calling some speakers forward. I would like to recognize first and foremost Assembly Member Charles Barron. If you are ready to speak, we'd like to welcome you. While we're getting Assembly Member Barron ready. Oh, welcome. Unmute yourself. Can you test your sound?
And I did my video, but I can't see myself on the screen.
We see you.
But we don't know what you're seeing.
We don't know what you're seeing. Could you put us on the screen?
I don't know why we don't see.
Our technical folks will work on getting you posted on screen. In the meantime, we welcome you and welcome your comments.
Well, first of all, thank you very much. We have been involved in this project since its inception, since the RFP stage. We've been monitoring it, and I do want to make quick comments about the demographics and the socio-economic comments I mentioned initially about the East New York community and the crime and the poverty and the high rates of unhealthy diseases. That is why we've often criticized a capitalist system, a state that has $170 billion plus budget, a city that has a $88+ billion budget. Those stats, those demographics should not exist. And we've been in politics for over 17 years now, and we've been able to secure over 12,000 units of affordable housing as we define affordability. And we've been able to stop gentrification from coming into our districts, which is very important. And this project is an example of how you stop gentrification. This project, we first discussed the importance of having the AMI, the area median income, which affects our environment, because if you don't have the right AMI, the characteristics, the demographics, the racial demographics of the entire community change. And Blacks are no longer able to afford to live in their communities, and whites move into our communities, thus creating gentrification. So this project, along with so many other projects that we have worked with developers on, is an example of that. 85% of the apartments in this 2,400 plus, 2,600 plus project will be at 60% or below the AMI of New York City. And that's people making $64,000, family of three, all the way down to $25,000, $35,000 will be able to move into these projects. And so we don't negate those that do make 60, 70, 80, and 90,000. We still have 15 to 20% of our community that makes that. They also will be able to get into this. This is a tremendous development project in terms of the open space, the green commitment to greening of the project, environmental sensitivity, the health commitment, the community space commitment, the commitment to making sure that we have our culture represented in this project. It is so much that this project is bringing to the community that we do support. Also, I say this because I always speak truth to power. It is rare that you have a Black developer having a third of the project. And we're not talking about the minority and women and contractors that get the subcontracts. We're talking about a developer, and we're talking about a general contractor. This is rare. And so we are very, very pleased to say that we have achieved that as well. So this project, we've been meeting in my office on it and meeting up in this governor's office on it to make sure that it meets the needs of our community. And now at this stage, the EIS stage is the most important stage of the entire project, because now we want it to be environmentally friendly and safe for our community. And that's looking at parking. We want to make sure that we have adequate parking space. Bringing in projects like this can really cause a problem with parking, because it's not as close to transportation, public transportation, as it could be, as some other projects are. So we got to look at transportation. That's a serious issue. Parking, a serious issue. Definitely when the excavation starts, whatever's found under the earth in that particular area, as we did with all of the other projects there, you must mitigate with high technology, with the advanced technology to mitigate anything found under the earth there, particularly if it's any form of gas, if it's any form of pollutants, if it's any form of chemical toxic stuff. We want that cleaned thoroughly. If at any point that is not done thoroughly and representatively of the quality and the care that we have for our community, we will ask this project to halt. This is the most important part. We want it safe, clean, and environmentally friendly. With that, I also want to say to our community that East New York over the last 17 years have been getting, has a revival going on. And we're looking to continue this revival by making people respect us. This is going to create a tremendous amount of jobs for our people, not only some union, but also from local jobs as well. And we're going to look at that very, very closely because that's important. And community benefits agreement to see how that enhances the environment when you are not out just to make money, just to make profit, but out to really make a commitment and an improvement to our community. So we'll be continuing to monitor this project. And this, the most important part of the project, is something that we're very excited about. I do want to turn it to Councilmember Inez Barron. She's been at all of the meetings with me, and we're glad that we're at this point.
Thank you, Assemblyman. We do have you on screen. If you'd like to tilt your camera down and we can, perfect. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Council member. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you so much for the presentation to summarize what it is that your proposed actions are. I want to speak specifically to the community residents who are here, who are on this scoping session. This session is for you to bring your concerns and ideas about any of the negative or positive effects that this project may have on our community. Talking about the physical, the biological, the social, the economic, the industrial, the geographical, the geological, and what kind of compensation are they doing, or how have they considered the fact that this is in a flood-prone zone? I haven't heard that talked about specifically. So I just want to say to the community, you're the ones who live here. You know what happens during demolition. You know what happens during staging and during construction. So we want your particular issues and observations in advance of these projects getting started so that we can plan for those things that sometimes, generally, oftentimes happen during a project being constructed. You're the boots on the ground, you know what it is, and we also want you to talk proactively about what we want to see, not just for this time of the construction, but beyond. And to the state, I do want to say we thank you for all that you're doing and for looking forward and for the plans that you're making. But we need to make sure that as this project is concluded and moves on to the subsequent stages, that we have the opportunity to assess how accurate your environmental impact statement was in preparing for what might happen. And when we see that there is a disparity and a disconnect between what the draft, what the final statement said, and what in fact becomes the reality in our community, we need a mechanism to go back to be able to say, okay, we thought that this was what would happen and we made provisions for that, but we see that that's not the case. So we need a mechanism ongoing during the process that says we need to make adjustments. We don't want to be locked into something that's not working. We don't want to be locked into something simply because it was done and it was approved. And to the community, I say this, what's happening tonight will in fact create the draft environmental statement. Right. They will come back again and we will have an opportunity to review their draft and have input to make sure that as they go towards the final impact statement, that it reflects what we as a community know we need for our children, for ourselves, and for expanding what it is that we want to see continuing in our community. Thank you so much. And for the record, Councilmember Inez, I-N-E-Z, Barron, Barron, and my husband, Assembly Member Charles, Charles, Barron, Barron. Thank you.
Thank you. We have Brooklyn Borough President Eric Adams will be making a comment. And as we get the Brooklyn Borough President ready to speak, we will be making a transition. Thank you so much. We are working on our list of speakers. They're automatically populating, and we're getting everyone situated. I thank you very much. We are looking to
Next
get
up is Lynette Darlington.
Lynette Darlington is Assembly Member Latrice Walker in the meeting. I know that she also wanted to make some comments. Oh, we have Lynette Darlington. Okay.
Hi.
Well, welcome.
Thank you. Are you guys able to see me well?
Yes.
Awesome. Good evening, everyone. I just wanted to share a concern I had actually after reviewing the SOW in reference to the 500 units of supporting housing. So I saw a bit of the breakout, and speaking as a mother of 2 girls under the age of 10, my intent is not to stigmatize anyone. However, my concern is that such a large quantity of supporting housing in such a concentrated area may be have negative effects on the community. For example, we have on the list the number of formerly incarcerated housing that will be available at 46. So right away, my question becomes, formerly incarcerated for what reasons? Will these individuals be sex offenders? You have 102 units for behavioral health, intellectual and developmental disabilities at 204, youth aging out of foster care at 41. Will there be staff on hand to monitor behaviors, ensure medications are being taken, and things don't spill out into the streets, where my girls will be playing? So this is a major concern for me, especially after, speaking to other individuals where in other neighborhoods where similar demographics entered the community. And, I've had individuals, let me know that individuals are walking around in the streets naked. They're afraid to leave their home after 6 p.m. And these are things that I do not want in my community. So I wanted to voice that in reference to these supportive housing units and my concern there.
Thank you very much. We appreciate your comment. We have Assembly Member Latrice Walker. Thank you very much for your patience, Assembly Member Walker. We'd like to promote you into the meeting, and Lynette Darlington will be promoted out so that we can make room for Assembly Member Latrice Walker.
And just really quickly for clarity, you said that these my comments will be noted in the document that's coming out afterward?
Yes.
Okay,
Absolutely.
thank you.
Thank you very much. Thank you very much, Assembly Member Latrice Walker. Thank you for your patience.
No problem. No
welcome
problem.
you.
Thank you so much for having me and for really conducting this meeting. And I want to, of course, acknowledge my colleagues in government, Assemblymember Charles Barron and Councilmember Inez Barron. I understand also that I believe Senator Prasad is here, as well as the borough president. This is a very awesome, I think, event, but how I became aware of it was the fact that I received a phone call from a constituent of mine in the East New York area who was a little nervous when they received a call from in-group. They weren't sure what this telephone call was about. So I believe that the information sort of leading up to the actual call should have been more readily available. And while I understand that, the site itself is in Assemblymember Barron's district, based on the fact that I too represent parts of East New York, my constituents were reaching out to me, and I really didn't have much of an answer by which to give them. And so she had to kind of go back to her voicemail. And so I think that the community input or outreach really should be ratcheted up so that it includes also the greater East New York community. Just so, I'm able to do what it is that we're all elected to be able to do. But notwithstanding that, there are, of course, always concerns with respect to environmental impact studies. Growing up in Brooklyn, one thing that everyone always acknowledges about that part of Brooklyn, people would say that, oh, well, it's on top of sanitation. There was a lot of things happening there historically that has created a lot of hysteria. And so this, quite frankly, will be a great opportunity so that the truth can come out ahead of the rumor mill. So people are just well informed with respect to the fact that this particular area, which is booming now and it will continue to boom, is safe, it's sound, and it's a wonderful livable space. But nobody can say that, with everything that we've been going through with COVID-19, that there aren't some environmental warnings that didn't exist in the past and we still know that we're living with. And well before the COVID-19 crisis took over our lives, some of those people were sounding alarms around air pollution. And as the Assembly member mentioned, as we're doing a lot of the excavation work and releasing whatever may be in the soil of this particular compound, we want to be vigilant with respect to any vulnerabilities that we're presenting for the community. Local air pollution disproportionately affects urban communities. And now there is compelling evidence through Harvard studies and otherwise that increased exposure to air pollution dramatically increases the chance that COVID-19 will kill you. And communities of color, which frequently have the worst air quality, have been hit the hardest by the virus. It took a global pandemic, but now it's clear that we must focus on public policy and reducing local air pollution, which is why, again, I want to elevate this, because failure to do so isn't just bad for the environment, but it exacerbates the conditions that could have been helped create clear racial disparities in COVID-19 infections and death rates. Again, the Harvard published a national study that showed a small increase in exposure to fine particulate matter, like the kind that's released into air from power plants, of course, construction, generators, construction vehicles, dramatically increases the death rate for people who are infected or affected by COVID-19. While the latest data questions the connection between asthma and COVID-19 fatalities in New York City, what is well documented is the damage that combustion-related air pollutants cause to human health, especially for children. The Journal of American Medical Association found that if you live in a city with high ozone levels for a decade, the results are similar to smoking a pack of cigarettes every day for 29 years. And yet, there are more than 1,300 megawatts of pollution that gets escaped into our local air and often affects our poorest residents who are forced to live near where these dirty power sources are being utilized. Last year, Albany passed the most aggressive climate legislation, the Climate Community Protection Act, in the nation, which I was proud to support. but the law regulates only greenhouse gas emissions that warms the planet and not the combustion related to pollutants that also cause smog and asthma in our communities. So we want to make sure that all of the construction aspects of this particular project is in accordance with the CCPA, and that we're also considering maybe some community benefit through the Clean Energy Fund, as well as making sure that we're taking special care not to run afoul of New York City's local law 97. So again, I thank you for the opportunity to speak, to make sure that I've put on the record that I'm very much concerned about climate change and the fact that we must do everything that we can to reduce greenhouse gases, because we know that the second wave of COVID-19, they're saying, will be worse than the first. And we look forward to working with you as you continue to move along throughout your work. I also wanted to note that Al Gore said when they were signing the climate bill that the number of African-American children who die from asthma is 10 times greater than the number of Caucasian children that die from asthma. And he's right. The death rate differences are stark. And in my assembly district, the rate of childhood asthma and the exposure to fine particulate matter and the ozone challenges are substantially higher than in the rest of the state. So we can see the rate of COVID-19 infections are higher amongst Blacks and Hispanic New Yorkers, and we are expecting you to do everything that you can in order to protect this very precious and vulnerable community. So thank you so much for the opportunity to express my thoughts.
Thank you very much. We are going to be reminding everyone this evening, if you are interested in making a comment, to please raise your hand or press the chat button or use *9 on your phone. Thank you again, Assemblymember Walker. And I think at this time, we don't have any current speakers that are registered. And, again, to register, please use the chat or raise hand feature that's located on the black toolbar at the bottom of your screen. And a member of the team will add you, to the speakers list so that we can take your comment this evening. If we do not have any registered speakers at this time, we will, refresh everyone on how to do that, and then we will take a short break. I think Anna Fisher has requested to speak, and I'd like to confirm that.
Yes, this is Anna Fisher.
Thank you very much, Anna. And we will reset the clock and have you make your comment. If you could just give your full name and affiliation if you have one.
Okay, so my name is Anna Fisher. That's Fischer. I am the housing person for Councilmember Inez Barron. And so in my work affiliation, there are a couple of things that I've paid attention to that I've noticed, and it would be nice if it was implemented in part of this plan. As seniors are living longer, I believe that if the property was able to affiliate some kind of adult continuing education, so we can keep our seniors' minds active and moving forward and still be able to have them play a crucial, active role in our community. With a facility as large as that, I'd really like to know what kind of emergency procedures are in place, especially because it is a flood zone. And some of the challenges that I've had with constituents in the community, I've noticed, especially during the pandemic, there are folks that are using animals as a social, emotional, and mental stability and support. And I know not too much was spoken in regards to that, because of course, I'm realizing that that's something new in itself. and reaching out to ASPCA and seeing how they are implementing these emotional animals, not just so much as pets, but usually to either calm them down for a mental issue or to give them the support that they need so that they can continue to be active persons in community. Supportive living is something new that's come into use with a lot of the folks that are experiencing rehabilitation issues, getting back into society, finding their place. In all of those implementations, I just wanted to bring that into the conversation so that you're mindful that they are there, and to find some place in this to that input. And that concludes. Oh, security. We didn't speak too much on the securities. Peace of mind, a big establishment like that, and social recreations. Because the other thing that people would have to compare with is historic city. And so if that's anything on that platform, which I do see that it exceeds that, but still to be mindful of. Thank you.
Thank you. We would invite and welcome anyone attending this evening to let us know by raising your hand or clicking on the chat button or hitting *9 on your phone. If you'd like to make a comment, we will be monitoring the chat and raise hand features so that we can get you on the list and have you make public comment tonight. Okay, Kay Marshall is registered, and we will be inviting Kay Marshall into the meeting. When you enter the meeting, please remember to give us your full name and affiliation if you have one. Is Kay Marshall available?
Hello?
Hi.
You can hear me?
We can
Oh.
hear you. And if you would be so kind and give us your name, full name and affiliation if you have one.
My name is Kiwi Marshall. I live in the community. I've been active in the community for a long time. I've attended a lot of meetings, and I'm gonna just piggyback on what Assemblywoman Latrice was talking about. Like, I don't feel like the meeting was really available to everyone in the East New York area, because there's a public website called nextdoor.com, and I didn't see anything that resembled the Brooklyn Developmental Center. I mean, I got the message on my phone, but I mean, if people wasn't lucky to get that voice message, and it's like you didn't know about, it could be a lot more engaging if there were more people included. That's all. I wanted to make that statement, and also I wanted to ask: are they planning on tearing down some more of that area where the last block of the Brooklyn Developmental Center? That's where they plan on putting all of this.
We will be addressing comments and questions in the final document.
All right.
All right.
Yeah.
Any other comments for the record tonight?
Yes, they need to add more lighting. I mean, if that's something that anyone else was concerned about, because it's a little dark, so it looks deserted. I mean, it's not much activity with the buses. So I would think they would have to add like a shuttle or something more readily available instead of you waiting, for a lot of minutes for the bus. I just think that they're going to have to add a lot to that particular area in Brooklyn.
Thank you
That's it.
so
No problem.
Thank you very much. We are looking to see if we have any other speakers who are any attendees this evening that are interested in making a comment. Again, you simply raise your hand or start chatting with us, and a member of the team will identify you. If you're on your phone, just press *9 and it'll automatically raise your hand and you'll be expressed to the speakers list. So we will take a look, and if we don't have any immediate speakers, we will take a short break and we'll reopen when we have a registered speaker. I will stay on screen and we'll put an on break, 10-minute break slide on the screen so that I can check in with you. And certainly when we have someone registered, we'll be right back. So thank you. We're just on a short break, waiting for speakers to register. If any of the attendees present this evening would like to make a comment, simply use the chat or raise hand feature on Zoom, and then a member of our team can identify you. I think we also have a couple of phone-only participants who can press *9. In the meantime, we are on a break. And we'll be back in 9 minutes. We're currently on a short break, waiting for speakers to register. Just want to remind everyone, you can use the chat or raise hand button. The raise hand button will expedite you right to the speakers list. And if you're by phone, just press *9. We're on a short break and we'll be back when we have a speaker. Just wanted to let everybody know that we're waiting, taking a short break, waiting for some speakers to register. And just use the chat or raise hand feature if you are interested in doing so, or *9 from your phone. Thank you. Thank you all. We've just had a 10-minute break. We are looking for speakers or anyone who's interested in making public comment tonight. While folks are on the call, I'd like to introduce Allison Beha, Empire State Development Vice President of Real Estate Development and Planning, and Kate Hobick, STV Consultant and Project Manager. And what we will do is replay the presentation. Some folks may have joined us a little bit later on into the meeting, so we'd like to give you an opportunity to see the presentation. Please note that we have an American Sign Language interpreter as well off screen. We have representatives from the project team and SAIPR who will address technical aspects of the meeting. So if you're interested or having some issues, you can reach out during the meeting. We will look to get the presentation moving forward so that folks who joined us late can see the presentation and have an opportunity to learn more about the Brooklyn Developmental Center mixed-use project. Is someone on the back end going to play the presentation?
We are.
Okay, thank you. Terrific. While you're queuing that up, I just wanted to remind everyone, aside from oral public comments made during tonight's meeting, you may also submit in writing via email to bdcproject@esd.ny.gov. You may also send it by U.S. Postal Service, and the comments that we receive, we will need them before the end of the public comment period, which is 5 p.m. Eastern Standard Time, November 13th, 2020. The project website for your reference is esd.ny.gov/BDC, and we'll share some more information about the contacts later on in the presentation. In the meantime, Allison, welcome.
Thanks, Marlene. So I'm just going to repeat what I said before for anyone who's joined us late. My name is Allison Bea. I'm the Vice President of Real Estate Development and Planning at Empire State Development, or ESD. I'm the Project Manager for the Brooklyn Developmental Center Mixed Use Project. We appreciate all of the stakeholders who are participating in this meeting tonight. We would much rather be with you in person, but due to the COVID-19 pandemic and restrictions on public gatherings, we're conducting this as a virtual meeting. What you're about to hear is a pre-recorded presentation with my voice describing the project, which we recorded ahead of time to ensure that the technology would be smooth this evening. Following my recording, I'll turn it over to Kate Hobick of STV to provide more information about the scope of work. I'll continue to be here live all evening listening to your comments. Thank you for being here. Looks like we're having a little bit of trouble starting the presentation. Just bear with us for a minute.
As we're queuing up the presentation, I just want to remind folks that if you're interested in making a comment this evening, you're welcome to do so up until 7:45. You can register to speak up until 7:45 p.m. You can also submit comments via email or mail, and all the information will also be available on the project website.
If you wish to make a public
The proposed project seeks to ameliorate these conditions by the construction of the proposed project
We seem to be experiencing some technical difficulties. Thank you all for your patience. We will definitely work to queue up that presentation one more time. In the meantime, just wanted to remind everyone that you can register to speak up until 7:45 this evening. It's just about 7:30 now, and we thank you all for your patience. And yeah, we'll look to queue up that presentation shortly. In the meantime, we will take a short break and try to resolve any issues that we have and be available to take any speakers who are interested in making comment tonight. You can raise your hand or start chatting on Zoom. There's a black toolbar at the bottom of the screen, or hit *9 on your phone if you're joining us by phone only. All right, and since we don't have any speakers currently registered to speak, while we wait for the presentation, if we can get that going, great. If not, we will take a short break. Just to let everyone know, we're experiencing technical difficulties and we're currently waiting for a registered speaker. We are also looking to queue up a presentation for folks that joined us a little bit late. In the meantime, my folks, if you could just put a break slide on, so for people who are viewing from home, that they know that we are experiencing technical difficulties. Thank you. We're currently on a break. It is 7:30. We're on break until about 7:40. We are looking for a registered speaker, or if anyone is interested in making a comment at this time. We will be accepting speaker registrations until 7:45 p.m. Just use the chat feature or raise your hand in Zoom or press *9. Hi, for those joining us this evening, I just wanted to mention that we were on break. We have had a presentation this evening, and if we're getting ready to conclude the meeting at 8 p.m. And you're always welcome to replay the presentation on the website, which will be available about 3 to 5 days from now. The web address again is esd.ny.gov/BDC. And we will go ahead and wait for a speaker. In the meantime, we'll remain open to accept comments this evening. You can raise your hand in Zoom or use the chat feature. I think we'll remind everyone that who's joining by phone, *9 is an easy way to raise your hand. And, what we'll do is go on break, continue our break until 7:45 p.m. Unless we have a registered speaker. So we'll go ahead and put the break slide back on screen for folks. Thank you so much. So we're getting some questions while we're on break, waiting for a speaker. If we could put slide 4 up for the ways to make comments, that would be very helpful. So not the participant instructions, but the ways, all the different ways to make public comments. We can, you can make public comments by submitting them in writing in addition to tonight's meeting. You can email bdcproject@esd.ny.gov, or you can send it via mail to the address that's currently shown on screen. And comments must be received before the end of the public comment period, which is 5 p.m. Eastern Standard Time on November 13th, 2020. Of course, you know, for more information about the project, the draft scope of work, the presentation, and information that you saw here tonight at esd.ny.gov/BDC. We still have 20 minutes left to the meeting. So we're going to continue to see if anyone is interested in speaking. And if not, we will, you know, remind you, if you're still with us or joined late, you can utilize the chat feature or raise your hand in Zoom or dial *9 from your phone, and you'll be added to the speakers list where you can make a comment, which will be included in the draft environmental impact statement. So what we will do is continue on break for now, and we will take another 10-minute break. And then I'll come back periodically and remind everybody that, you know, with the email address and so forth, we'll follow up. All right, so in the meantime, let's go on break. And it is now 7:40. We'll be back at about 7:50, and I'll remind everyone that we're on break in between. Thank you so much. For those who are still watching and the attendees who are with us this evening, just wanted to remind you that we are currently on break until about 7:50, and we will be open for we're closing the speaker registration shortly. It is now 7:45, and we'll be closing the speaker registration. So if there's anybody in attendance this evening that would like to speak, please raise your hand or the chat. You'll have additional ways to make comment by email bdcproject@esd.ny.gov. The draft scope of work and presentation and information will also be on the ESD website at esd.ny.gov/BDC by postal service, and all comments would need to be submitted before the close of the comment period, which is 5 p.m. Friday, November 13th, 2020. So we'll continue on break for another 10 minutes before we begin to close out the meeting this evening. Just wanted to remind everyone that we're currently on break. There was an opportunity to provide public comment tonight. We have closed the registration for now, but you can still send comments. We would like to remind you that you'll be able to send them via email to bdcproject@esd.ny.gov. you'll be able to send them by mail, and you'll be able to do so until the close of the public comment period, which is November 13th, which is a Friday at 5 p.m. So we're going to continue on break for another 6 minutes or so before we start to move to close the meeting. But in the meanwhile, please feel free to take note of the email address, which is bdcproject@esd.ny.gov, and the draft scope of work, along with the meeting this evening. And the presentation will be on the project website, which is esd.ny.gov/BDC. So we'll just stay on break for another few moments, and before we move to close the meeting. Thank you. And for those of you watching or attending tonight's meeting via Zoom, we are on a 5-minute break ahead of our closing the meeting. So I just wanted to remind folks who are with us and listening that you may provide comments on the draft scope of work up until Friday, November 13th at 5 p.m. You can email at bdcproject@esd.ny.gov, and you can also send in your comments by mail. Please do go to the website at esd.ny.gov/BDC for more information on the project draft scope of work, along with a replay of tonight's meeting, presentation, and all the ways to comment are reiterated on the website. So, we're going to continue our break for a few more moments until we move to close the meeting. So we'll continue on break momentarily. Hi, everyone who's still with us, watching live, and who are with us via Zoom. Tonight, I would just like to let you know that we're on a short break ahead of closing the meeting. We have no registered speakers at this time, but I'd like to take this opportunity to remind everyone that we are accepting comments on the draft scope of work until Friday, November 13th, 5 p.m. And you can do so via email at bdcproject@esd.ny.gov and visit the project website to learn more about the draft scope of work, esd.ny.gov/BDC. In addition, you can submit your comments in writing to Empire State Development, attention Stacy Turan, 633 3rd Avenue, 37th floor, New York, New York, 1007. So we will just take a short pause before we officially move to close out the meeting. Hi, everyone who's with us, watching us live, and who's joined us via Zoom this evening. We wanted to let you know that there are no additional comments at this time, and I'm pleased to turn the meeting over to Allison Beha of ESD for some remarks before this meeting is officially closed.
Thanks, Marlene. I just wanted to thank everybody for joining us tonight. I know it's a bit surreal to have a public meeting virtually, so thank you for bearing with us. And we really appreciate the feedback we got, and we appreciate so many people joining us to listen. We look forward to any additional comments that you have. Please submit them again by November 13th at 5 p.m. Thank you again.
And thank you, Allison, and thank you very much to everyone who has spoken today and who has listened and participated tonight. This was an exciting opportunity to garner public comment on the draft scope of work, even with the COVID-19 social gathering restrictions. It is now 7:57 p.m., very close to 8. I will repeat a lot of the scoping public comment information, but we are closing the public scoping meeting officially, and feel free to provide any comments that you may have on the draft scope of work. We are accepting them until 5 p.m. on Friday, November 13th, 2020, by email or mail. The addresses are on screen for those participating via phone. I'll repeat those addresses again: bdcproject@esd.ny.gov, and the mailing address is Empire State Development, attention Stacy, S-T-A-C-E-Y, Turan, T-E-R-A-N, 633 3rd Avenue, 37th floor, New York, New York, 10017. And to get more information about this project and to view the recording and transcript of this meeting, please visit the project website at esd.ny.gov/BDC. We thank you all and wish you a good evening. This has been the public scoping meeting for the Brooklyn Developmental Center Mixed Use Project. The web address again is esd.ny.gov/BDC, and it is now 8 o'clock, and the meeting is officially closed. Thank you so much.